better be getting credits ready.
Well, involved in our capital campaign, always looking for grant writers,
Get accepted to
folks who come in.
Did they like? Hello, and welcome to AAUW Connections. Tonight we have a different kind of a show. Ordinarily, we learn about some organization in the community or some group. Tonight we're focusing inward on ourselves, on our cable channel KMVT, which is channel 15. And our guest is Shelley Wolfe, who is the executive director of KMVT. And she's going to tell us more about how all this magic happens. Now, Shelley, how do you become the executive director of a cable channel, of a public access? What are your qualifications, for example? What's your background?
Sure. Well, I started out actually just like any other intern and volunteer in public access. I had no media training to begin with. I went in as an intern, started taking workshops.
And where was that?
Pacifica, California.
Oh, okay.
So this was back in the 90s, and I loved it, and I found myself there every night working on all kinds of shows, and worked my way up into a production supervisor position. And
Still a volunteer?
Still a volunteer. And then next thing I know, they were looking for an assistant manager. So I said, you know what, I'll apply. What do I have to lose? I know everybody, and you know.
Why not get paid for something that I do?
That I love? Yeah. And I had run other businesses before in the music business and ran record stores and stuff like that. So I had some management background, and so next thing I knew, I got hired. And then it was great because the executive director I worked for at the time was actually much younger than I. And so his background was really technology. And so we kind of swapped positions, even though he was the executive director. I managed the station and he did the technology. And we learned from each other.
Sure.
And he decided to go off to air traffic school. And next
was
thing
a
I
change
know,
of careers for him too, wasn't
that
it?
was a big one. And next thing I know, I applied for the position, and there I landed it. So.
And how many years were you there from beginning as an intern?
Yep, for 9 years. 9 years, and then I ran the station for 5 of those 9. So I was there for 4 years, basically free.
Mm-hmm. Had you, in your educational background, had you studied journalism or anything to do with TV, or this was just?
No, not at all. I mean, business-wise, music theory, information and stuff like that, but it was just really kind of became a passion of mine. I wanted to learn how to do documentaries, and someone said, go to your local public access station, and I never heard of it. And, I had always fought for human rights and freedom of speech, and so I said, well, this sounds right up my alley.
Yes, a perfect fit.
And there I landed.
And so after Pacifica, those 9 years there, then what?
Well, I left for a little bit, and I went into back to the music business, and worked for some labels doing sales and marketing and distribution companies, and kind of traveled all over the world and got some more management experience.
Yeah. But still sort of in the entertainment business.
Still in the entertainment business, and I realized how much I missed public access, and so I just kept seeking out positions, and the next thing I knew, a position opened in Massachusetts, and so I said, all right, I'll go to Massachusetts. So I did that for a year and a half. And about 7 months ago, I found myself here in Mountain View, California.
How did you learn of this opening?
Sure. I learned of it because I belong to an organization called the Alliance for Community Media, which basically is a large support organization for public access stations across the country. And they had posted the job on the listserv, and I said, I kept him-hawing, like, am I ready to go back to California or not? And time came, and all of a sudden it was time, and they offered me the job. So.
Oh, well, lucky for us. And so that's been just 7 months, so you're fairly new on the job. Yeah. And did you come with were you given a mission or an objective that, was it a change of direction for the station, or?
I wouldn't say a change of direction. It was more just a continuation of what was going on. Public access is always at risk, and so we've have always had to deal with financial issues and technology issues and that sort of thing. And Brian decided he wanted to retire, so this was my opportunity to kind of carry on what he had already created. And so part of my mission here is to embrace this in technology and where that looks like in the future, but the same token kind of come with some financial sustainability for the long-term access station as a whole. So
Yes, which
Yeah.
we'll talk about some more later on, because that's a big issue.
It is a
financial
big issue. Yeah,
sustainability.
yeah.
Now, how do you interact with the community in this job?
Sure. So, you know, I work with all of you guys. So when you guys as volunteers come in, I talk to you and find out what you guys are working on. But I also go out into the community, and I go to a lot of mixers. I sit with the council members and talk to them about what's important. I go to local businesses and talk to them about what's important, and also try to educate them about public access, because as much as people may know the name, they either may be intimidated by what it means, a television station, or how they can actually utilize it. And most businesses don't realize that no matter what type of business you are, you can utilize a resource like KMVT. So,
And how do they use it? How
well,
do they utilize it?
especially nonprofits, we can offer public service announcements for free. They can come in here and tell their story about their nonprofit and utilize it as a marketing tool. We also offer professional services, so we can create 1 to 3 minute little marketing clips that they can use on the internet to promote their business.
You can do that for a local business?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Oh, well,
So we have all kinds of services.
That's a big plus.
Yeah, yeah.
And
so.
do you charge them for doing that?
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. So, and again, it depends. Nonprofit
Probably
obviously gets a
less,
better deal.
Yeah, and probably less than an advertising agency
That's
would
correct.
charge.
That's correct.
And so you have a sliding scale, or at least a scale for nonprofits and a scale for
commercial
businesses.
business, yeah. Because we can't put any commercial content that does a call to action on the television station, but it doesn't stop us from being able to supply a service to them.
Yes, which they, as you said, can put on the internet or
Exactly.
use it in some other way.
Exactly.
Which is,
or they can come in and talk about their business. Like I always say to a banker, you may have financial information that's really relevant to your community. So it's not promoting your business, but you can talk about the financial importance that consumers need to be aware of and their customers need to be aware of.
Then do you hook him up with that same banker? Do you hook her up with some program that will now talk about banking?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Okay, so you feed leads as well to some of the
volunteers and producers.
To
absolutely.
the producers of the various shows. That's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
Now, how big a staff do you have here? A paid staff?
Sure, paid staff. We have 4 full-time and 2 part-time.
Oh.
So we stay very
that's
busy.
a good size.
We are, but we're actually kind of small compared to most stations that do what we do every day. You and I talked earlier, we go out and we cover about 100 sporting events a year through the high schools and middle schools, and we just have 1 staff person and the entire crew, which is about usually 50 or 70 that we rotate through, all do this free in their time. Yeah. So it's a lot of fun, but it's very busy too.
Well, yeah, and what I meant also by a big number is that you running the station have the staff to manage and to program, decide where they're going, who's going where, plus all of the volunteers, plus your community. Gee, you need a raise.
Well, thanks.
Whatever it may be.
I just would like to clone myself, really, because there's not enough time to split myself between the 3 cities.
And now you all it's Los Altos and Mountain View and Cupertino.
Yep, and we also do government meetings for Sunnyvale as well. So.
Oh, is that right?
That is right, and they're actually beginning to launch their public access station that will be going live in July.
They haven't had one?
Well, they took it off the air for a while. It was a government channel, and so now it's going to be public access again. So we're going to begin training classes as well for them as well. Yeah. So.
And as you say, you cover the government meetings for all of those cities, the council meetings, the planning commission. What else?
Special events that may be happening. So we may have like the Diwali festival, or we may have the Arts and Wine, or there may be like the Battle of the Bands recently was in Los Altos. We've covered those. So.
Now, what is your funding source? Where do you get your funds from?
Sure. So public access is funded through usually the cities, and the reason that happens is that FCC put legislation into place back in the 80s that any cable company that came into a community has to pay a franchise fee to the city, and that cable company, or the public access station and the cable company, or the city can get up to 4.5% of their annual revenues. So that means...
And does the franchise fee to each city depend on how many viewers there? Subscribers, yes.
So anybody who's a subscriber has to, on their bill, will see that there's a PEG fee or a franchise fee, and then we get up to 4.5% of those revenues. So it's not a lot of money, and especially when a lot of folks either are moving away from cable access or from cable companies themselves, but also going to internet. So because internet, you're not paying public right-of-ways.
Right.
And so there is always the risk of losing those funds. And today I was actually just having a conversation with one of the cities that, you know, the cable individuals are falling off the cable business because we're not on satellite television and that sort of thing. So.
Yeah, and the other side of that, or an additional problem with that, is that not only is your funding going down, but your potential viewers are going down because it's only, you have to be on cable to be able to watch the show as it's.
Exactly. So we always are looking for ways to continue our programming, and you know, right now we have a YouTube channel. We also post different web stuff on our own web page.
So you have your own YouTube channel.
We do have
so
our own
when
YouTube.
This show, for example, is on YouTube, it's on your YouTube channel?
Exactly. So anyone can see it all across the world. And then we also have, like, all of the sports, for example, are on our channel as well, on our web channel, on our website. So if they go to our website, they can look at all the sports as well.
So someone could come, so if someone didn't have cable, were not a cable subscriber, but they had satellite or something through the phone company, they could go online on their computer to the KMVT
YouTube site.
You go to the KMVT YouTube site, and so you'd go to. How would you do that? What's the mechanics of that?
The easiest way actually would be go to our website, KMVT15.org, and they click through right on the top. It'll say web channel, and you click through there, and it'll take you right to the web channel. So.
Okay, and then you would put in sports, or
you can do a search. So you could search for AAUW, or you could search for sports, or you could search for someone's name.
Mountain View High School.
Exactly.
Okay, whatever those various little cues might be that would bring you to what. That is very good.
Yep, and then we're looking at ways of streaming, so we'll constantly be streaming as well.
So one last thing on the funding. I mean, my own background is in economics, so I just, for better or worse, tend to home in on this.
Sure.
The 4.5%, is that by law? Is that in federal law? Or do each of the cities have to negotiate with the cable company?
Sure. So up the 4.5% is a law that the cable company has to pay the city up to that point. They can't go over it, and they're not really supposed to be below it. But you know, you will find some cities that only get 2%, and some cities only get 1%.
Is this because of the negotiating ability of, of that particular city, or?
Yeah, and as well as, you know, contracts continually change, and mostly it's based on the city. Now, currently we have dealt with the fact that we've gone away from city negotiations. So in 2006 and 2007, the DIVCA Act was passed, and the DIVCA Act is it was the Digital Interchange Video Act, or whatever it was. And what it did is it took all the franchising authority away from the local cities and gave it to the state, which is actually even more risk to all public access stations. So
that is really. Was that a federal law, or was that a state law that took that?
It was a state law. Yeah.
Huh, too bad.
Yeah.
So are you an employee of Comcast? It sounds like you're not.
No, we are all individually employed by the nonprofit of KMVT. So we are a nonprofit 501c3.
And you have a board of directors?
We sure do.
Okay, and how is the board of directors chosen?
The board of directors are chosen through members as well as the board of directors. So anybody can vote in a member, and as well as if someone's interested in joining our board of directors, they can reach out to our board of directors, and they go through an interview process and bring in certain skills, and then they're voted onto the board by the board of directors.
And how large is the board of directors?
Right now we have 9.
You have 9, and presumably at least one representative from each of the 3 cities, or not?
We do have people from different cities. Currently, I think we're missing Sunnyvale. So, but we're also working on setting up an advisory committee, and the advisory committee would be able to support the board in terms of future development as well. They would have no voting rights, but it would be people from other communities that can come in and kind of give us their feed of what they think we're missing in the community.
That could be very helpful, couldn't it?
Absolutely. I can use all the input I can get.
Well, most of us can, whether we realize it always or not.
Sure.
And so then the board of directors hired you, for example,
Yep.
and then you hire the station employees.
Theoretically, yes.
Yes.
Yep. Though they've all been here for a long time. I'm very lucky.
Now, how many different community groups have shows on KMVT?
Sure. So right now we have 30 different producers that produce every month. So You know, some days that number goes up, some days that number goes down. But typically the average number is about 30 producers that are volunteers are coming in and producing on a monthly basis.
So, yeah, so each producer has a monthly time slot.
Exactly.
For example, just as we do.
Yep.
And how do you, is it a first come, first serve?
First come, first serve.
Okay, so you don't get to pick and choose, well, this producer I like and that one.
No, everybody is required to go through our workshops. We offer a wide variety of workshops. Once they've done a studio production workshop, then they need to go through a producer's workshop so that they understand what their responsibilities are as a producer. And then at that point, they can submit a proposal and begin producing.
And do you, once they've taken the workshops, you've trained them, then do you have any control over the quality or the content of the?
No. So, you know, we do our best to try to encourage them to have the best quality of shows. However, you know, it's really, again, everything's done by volunteers, so sometimes there's mistakes, but so is there in professional world.
That's what we were talking about earlier.
And I would say our stuff's a lot better than the professional world, but at the same token, no, we cannot control any of the content. The content is completely free and open, so.
But is there any control on, you know, could the American Nazi Party have a program?
They could. They could.
Ah.
Yes. And they do.
And
Not
they do.
here,
Yeah,
but in other stations, they do.
Oh, that's really...
Again, public access was really set up for the local voice, so anybody can come in and have a TV show. And so again, let's say somebody has a, you know, the Nazi show or a show that they may not like, they can come in and do a counteractive show if they would like and do the same thing.
If there was a time slot available.
Right.
That, I mean, that... there were just so many slots, and
well, that's true too. Yes.
So they'd have to wait until.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. But you're saying that at least here in Mountain View and Los Altos and Cupertino, we don't.
No.
That's.
No.
Is there anything that someone might do in the course of a show that would be absolutely a no-no? Is it pornography? Is it language?
Pornography we cannot show. You know, there is shows that does have, like, you know, basic nudity.
So there are some standards.
Sure. So, you know, the basic main things that they cannot do is there's no pornography, there's no slander. Anything that may be of risk of crossing that line would be aired after 10 o'clock at night. So, you know, so at least there's no risk of hopefully children seeing anything.
So there is some, so you do see the shows before they're put on the air?
No, producers sign off on a request that states they're not, you know, breaking any of these rules. And then if we get a complaint, then we go and watch the show and then have a conversation with that producer or have to pull that show. We've been very, very lucky here in Mountain View. We've never had to do that, but I have worked at stations where I have had to pull shows. So,
oh my.
Yeah.
So now you have a producer and they represent some organization or whatever, and they get their own volunteers.
They get their own volunteers. So.
And you train the volunteers.
Yep.
How long does that training last? Is it a week? Or?
Yeah, so, well, you know, it depends on what they're wanting to learn. So typically, the way we're set up is we have a studio production class that is 4 weeks long.
Once a week
for weeks. And they would come in, they would take the class, and we give them a real brief overview of everything. And then we encourage them to come in and begin working and get their real hands-on experience behind the cameras or on the audio board and that sort of thing. And then if they want any extra guidance in terms of special equipment that they may want to learn, then we teach advanced classes as well. So.
And are the now, just as we have volunteers working the cameras and or in the crew, and somebody isn't going to do it anymore or whatever, and people rotate in, new people rotate in. Do you have regularly scheduled classes where new volunteers? Okay,
yep,
so that's not an issue.
Not an issue. Not an issue. And we've been very lucky and have some very dedicated volunteers. And you know, every month our classes are full, which we love. So.
And the staff runs those classes too. That's still another responsibility.
Exactly.
Right. Well,
So
you're busy.
Yeah.
I guess
I teach editing, so.
Yeah. So, and you told me in our conversations that you do live shows as well.
We do. So.
And you alluded to it slightly. And what might they be?
Yeah, so anybody could do a live show. We could do a live show right now if we wanted to. But
Oh, if we wanted to do this show live,
yeah,
we could do
we
that.
could go instantly, just flip the switch and we would be live. But what typically, like, it would be like a music show that may go live, or we would go live from the street. And so how it works is that there's a fiber connection within the city that allows us to plug in. And unfortunately, the only place that we have is Mountain View downtown, right next to City Hall, that we plug in. So like we'll go live for the Arts and Wine Festival or different parades and just different events that may be happening on Castro Street. The rest of it is video to tape.
So it's the reason it's live downtown in Mountain View is because City Hall is located on Castro Street.
Exactly.
Okay.
And we have a live connection there.
Yeah,
so.
but the live connection is there because it's of City Hall.
Exactly. Exactly.
So that whereas in Cupertino or in Los Altos, the live connection is at City Hall, but that's not
your main street.
the main street.
Right,
Okay.
right.
So the live shows are unless they're done in the studio live, but
Right.
any outside the studio live shows are on Castro Street.
Exactly. Exactly.
By
default.
necessity.
Yeah.
By default. So does the station, do you have any of your own shows that's just shows that are not producers from the community but that the station puts on? Do you ever do that?
What we do in terms of that is, we cover sports, so we are responsible for covering sports within the community.
Okay.
However, again, the crew is all volunteer, but I do have one staff person that's on the show. And then we also do a show called Silicon Valley Buzz. However, it is still volunteers that come in and dedicate their time. The host and everybody is a volunteer.
Who decides on what the content of those shows, what the topic will be for a given month?
Actually, it's the volunteer that runs the show.
Oh,
so,
okay.
Yeah. But in terms of what we produce, we work with the schools to try to produce PSAs with students. We produce, basically PSAs, I guess, would be the main thing that the station produces. Everything else is really done by volunteers.
And so with the schools, the schools can do, the students at the schools, what great experience for them.
Yep, absolutely.
Can do
Absolutely.
PSAs, which are then shown,
Excuse me.
are shown online.
Yes, yes. So, but we have to have parent permission. So,
okay.
Right now I'm working with a group at Graham Middle School, and through that we're doing something called permanent positive television, where the students come up with socially conscious issues that they're concerned about in their community, and they're broken into groups of 3 and 4, and they generate the PSAs.
That's great. Just what are some of the PSAs that they're doing at Graham School?
I have one that's going to be on bullying. I have a group of students who's doing some on litter. They didn't like the fact that a lot of people are doing litter, which I thought was great that at that young age they're thinking about.
So these are 11 to 13-year-old boys and girls.
Exactly.
That is just great. Now, as time goes on, equipment changes or wears out or is obsolete.
Yep.
How do you get new equipment?
Well, right now, that's actually a good question, because right now I'm in the middle of a big capital campaign. So we started a Go Digital campaign in December, and we are trying to raise $500,000 throughout the communities to basically take our analog equipment that we have and upgrade it to digital. So it's a big process, and we go out and we have to ask for funds. Right now everything's kind of bandaged together, so it's really coming up with the funds from either local businesses, individuals, and doing grants and that sort of thing to get funding.
When did this campaign begin?
In December.
Oh, so it's new.
It's very new, but we've already raised almost $10,000 just from our volunteers.
That's
so
a
we're
start.
very grateful for that.
Start.
Absolutely.
Now, suppose someone out watching this show said, I really want I want you to be able to have the best equipment. What would they do? How could they get you money?
They could just contact me, or they could send it just directly to the station as an anonymous donation if they wanted, or we could come up. A lot of times what I have is also sponsorship opportunities. So if someone wanted to do a sponsorship level and basically sponsor a room of equipment, they would do that, and they would get a plaque on the wall and that sort of thing as well.
Okay,
So,
well, that's good to know too. Now, are there any, I can almost see where this is going. Are there threats to your existence right now?
Every day. Every day, on so many levels. We have, especially the biggest fear is the way that people are consuming media these days. Most people are beginning to consume media through their, iDevices, whether it's an iPhone, their iPads, streaming content on their TVs where they no longer need cable television, and people aren't home anymore to watch television. The shift from people having DVRs and their menus of, I can watch it later, there's no rush to get home and watch TV anymore. So people are streaming content, and so, the Google TVs, the Roku boxes that exist. I know Comcast now has something called Xfinity Stream.
Right.
So as those types of things come along, we have to think about how we're going to engage our consumers and make sure we're online and have streaming content as well. But what happens is that changes the way we receive funds, because the franchise fees are no longer being paid to the cities because they're internet companies. So it's actually considered data, and they're not using public right-of-ways.
And so, and the franchise fees from the cable, from Comcast in this case, are going down because they don't have as many subscribers. It's not good for them either.
Exactly, and it's not good for the city either.
And so what can the public do? I mean, this is such a wonderful resource for the people in the cities to have.
Sure.
What can they do to help?
Well, we're open. We're always looking for volunteers to help us out in multiple ways. They can donate. They can get involved in our capital campaign. I'm always looking for grant writers. I'm always looking for folks to come in and kind of look for equipment.
Okay. Could they write to their legislators and say, please, find some other funding source, or try and help them? Or
Absolutely.
Even
So 3 years ago, a cable act was put into place called the CAP Act, and the CAP Act was put into place in order to kind of do just that, to kind of start the process of fighting against the loss of public access.
So people could write to the federal
as well as the local senators.
Okay,
so,
okay.
We definitely should be writing to our Barbara Boxer and Barbara Feinstein.
And okay, we didn't even get into all your awards, and which you have won many for this station, and we can be very proud of that. But it was great to talk to you. I'm sorry that we couldn't give you more credit for the awards. Thank you so much for coming tonight.
Thank you.
So we learned more about how this all works.
Absolutely.
And thank you for watching AAUW Connections.
Especially nonprofits and public access stations that provide a service to them.
Yes, which they, as you said, can put on. And then the franchise fee to each public staff pays.
Sure, pays down as well. So.
And as you say, you cover the government meetings for all of those cities, the council meetings, the planning commission.
So we always